Welcome to Miss Scarlett. Subscribe and don't miss out on Patreon. Have fun! As a sea of rejection emails piled up like a never-ending storm, each flash of the inbox brought not hope, but yet another gust of disappointment. 79 attempts at reaching dry land, 21 close encounters, and not a single shred of salvation. The rent for the tiny apartment hung over their head, an ever-growing weight threatening to crush them with each passing day. Even the refrigerator mirrored their empty state, housing nothing but memories of meals long gone and the fading hope of sustenance. A heavy breath escapes, and the cursor hovers, poised to execute the grim ritual of discarding another failed opportunity. But wait. An anomaly emerges from the mundane corporate jargon. Within the depths of the automated farewell, a glimmer of a secret code, Executive Assistant to CEO, Archer Enterprises. Could this be an uncharted route to the heart of success? The name, whispered with reverence among the local professionals, promised prestige, a chance to breach the fortified walls of the corporate elite, competitive salary, full benefits. Curtis Barnes leaned back in the creaky desk chair, running fingers through short brown hair. The qualifications matched perfectly. Exceptional organizational skills, advanced knowledge of office software, discretion, professionalism. Everything Curtis had in abundance, but couldn't seem to convince anyone to take seriously during interviews. What am I doing wrong? The question hung in the air of the small studio apartment. The laptop screen reflected a tired face, dark circles under eyes that had once sparkled with ambition. 3 years of business administration studies and a 4.0 GPA should have opened doors. Instead, each interview ended with the same polite rejection. Curtis clicked on the job listing, finger hovering over the Apply Now button, when a notification popped up. A social media alert about a former classmate who'd just been promoted to senior manager at a competing firm. The profile picture showed a smiling professional woman in a tailored outfit, radiating confidence and success. Something clicked. The articles Curtis had been reading lately about gender bias in hiring practices suddenly felt less theoretical and more personal. Studies showed women were perceived as more organized, detail-oriented, and better at multitasking. Exactly the qualities an executive assistant needed. What if... It started as a wild thought, something to laugh about later, but as Curtis stared at the application form, the idea took root. The company had never seen Curtis in person. They had no idea what to expect. The cursor moved to the first name field. Instead of Curtis, fingers typed Clara. "This is crazy," Curtis muttered, but continued filling out the application, changing pronouns, adding a new email address. By the time the submit button was clicked, Curtis Barnes had disappeared, and Clara Barnes had applied for her first job. 2 days later, the phone rang. Clara Barnes had an interview with the CEO of Archer Enterprises. The next 48 hours passed in a blur of preparation. An online shopping spree depleted the last of the emergency credit card funds. Tutorials on makeup application played on repeat. A friend from college theater days offered coaching on voice modulation and feminine mannerisms. The morning of the interview arrived too quickly. Curtis stared at the items laid out on the bed. A sleek navy pencil skirt, a white silk blouse, nude heels, and a brown wig styled in a professional bob.
"Just once,"
Curtis whispered.
"Just to get the job. Then I'll come clean."
The transformation was painstaking. The wig fit snugly, the brown synthetic hair falling naturally around the face. Makeup concealed the stronger angles of Curtis's features, creating softer contours. The white silk blouse draped elegantly over the foam inserts that created a modest feminine silhouette. The navy pencil skirt hugged unfamiliar curves created by carefully positioned padding. Standing before the mirror, Curtis disappeared completely. Clara looked back, professional, poised, and remarkably convincing. The interview was scheduled for 10 o'clock. Clara arrived at 9:40, walking carefully in the nude heels across the marble lobby of the Archer Enterprises headquarters. Each step required concentration, each movement a conscious effort to maintain the illusion. "Clara Barnes for Mr. Archer," she told the receptionist, her voice pitched higher, but not unnaturally so. The receptionist smiled warmly. "Please have a seat. Mr. Archer will be with you shortly." Clara perched on the edge of a sleek leather chair, ankles crossed demurely, hands folded in her lap just as she had practiced. The lobby buzzed with activity. Executives hurrying to meetings, assistants carrying coffee, maintenance staff polishing already gleaming surfaces. No one gave her a second glance. She was invisible in the best possible way, just another professional woman in a building full of them.
"Ms. Barnes?"
A deep voice broke through her thoughts. "I'm Richard Archer. Please come with me." The CEO of Archer Enterprises was taller than expected, with salt and pepper hair and piercing blue eyes that seemed to evaluate everything they saw. Clara rose, extended her hand for a firm but not overpowering handshake, and followed him to the elevator.
"So, Ms. Barnes,"
Mr. Archer said as they ascended to the executive floor.
"Your resume is impressive. Tell me why you want to be my executive assistant."
Clara had rehearsed this answer extensively. "I believe in supporting excellence, Mr. Archer. Your company's reputation for innovation and integrity aligns with my personal values. As your executive assistant, I would dedicate myself to eliminating distractions and optimizing your time so you can focus on what you do best, leading this company toward continued success." A hint of a smile appeared on his face.
"Well said. Let's continue this conversation in my office."
The interview lasted nearly 2 hours. Mr. Archer was thorough, asking detailed questions about organizational systems, prioritization strategies, and diplomatic handling of difficult situations. Clara answered each question with confidence, drawing on experiences that Curtis had accumulated, but presenting them through Clara's more polished lens.
"There's one last thing,"
Mr. Archer said, as the interview drew to a close.
"This position requires someone who can start immediately. Our previous executive assistant left rather abruptly, and I'm drowning in administrative chaos."
"I can start tomorrow," Clara replied, without hesitation. Mr. Archer's eyebrows rose slightly.
"That's uncommonly accommodating. Are you currently employed elsewhere?"
"No, sir. I've been selectively searching for the right opportunity. I believe this is it."
He studied her for a moment, then nodded.
"Be here at 8 tomorrow morning. We'll have a 2-week trial period. If we're both satisfied at the end of it, we'll formalize your employment."
"Thank you, Mr. Archer. I won't disappoint you." Walking out of Archer Enterprises, Clara felt a complex mix of emotions. Triumph at securing the position, anxiety about maintaining the deception, and a strange, unexpected feeling of comfort in her feminine attire. The plan had been to create Clara just long enough to get the job, then gradually ease the company into accepting Curtis. But something shifted during that interview. The way Mr. Archer had looked at her, with respect, with professional interest, was different from how Curtis had been viewed in previous interviews. Back in the apartment, Clara carefully removed the wig, the makeup, the professional clothes. Curtis returned, staring at the feminine items now hanging in the closet. Tomorrow, they would need to be worn again. And the day after, and after that.
2 weeks,
Curtis said aloud.
I just need to keep this up for 2 weeks.
The first day at Archer Enterprises dawned bright and clear. Clara arrived at 7:45, dressed in a charcoal gray pencil skirt, a pale blue blouse, and the same nude heels. The brown wig was styled slightly differently, with a subtle side part. Her makeup was understated, but flawless. Mr. Archer was already at his desk when she entered the executive suite.
Good morning, Ms. Barnes. Ready to dive into the deep end?
Absolutely, Mr. Archer. The deep end proved to be an accurate description. The previous executive assistant had left the filing system in disarray, the calendar was filled with conflicting appointments, and the email inbox contained over 3,000 unread messages. Clara tackled each problem methodically. By lunchtime, she had reorganized the filing system, resolved the calendar conflicts, and sorted the emails by priority. Mr. Archer watched her work with increasing appreciation.
Have you eaten?
He asked around 1 o'clock. Clara looked up from the computer, surprised to find that hours had passed without her noticing. Not yet, sir.
Let's rectify that. There's a cafe across the street that makes excellent sandwiches. My treat, as a thank you for bringing order to my chaos.
Lunch with the CEO hadn't been part of the plan. Clara felt a flutter of panic. Sitting across from him at a small table would put her under closer scrutiny than the professional distance of the office. That's very kind. But I brought something from home, she lied smoothly. However, I'd be happy to pick up something for you if you'd like. Mr. Archer nodded, seemingly unsurprised by her professional boundary setting. I appreciate your dedication. Perhaps another time. The remainder of the day passed in a blur of productivity. Clara established new organizational systems, drafted responses to non-urgent emails for Mr. Archer's approval, and created a more efficient calendar system that color-coded appointments by priority and required preparation time. At 6:30, Mr. Archer emerged from his office, briefcase in hand.
You should head home, Ms. Barnes. You've accomplished more in one day than most people do in a week.
Thank you, sir. I'll just finish setting up these reminder protocols and then leave.
He paused in the doorway.
Clara, it's only the first day, and already I can tell you're going to be an asset to this company. See you tomorrow, and don't stay too late.
The praise sent a warm glow through her chest. How long had it been since Curtis had received that kind of professional validation? Too long to remember. Days turned into weeks. The 2-week trial period ended with Mr. Archer offering Clara a permanent position with a salary higher than the listed range. The brown-haired executive assistant quickly became known throughout Archer Enterprises as the gatekeeper to the CEO, efficient, professional, and invariably dressed in elegant business attire. The daily transformation from Curtis to Clara became more refined. The wig was replaced with a higher quality version in the same brown shade, cut into a more sophisticated style. Clara's wardrobe expanded to include more colors beyond the initial navy and gray, a burgundy dress for the company's quarterly meeting, a forest green blazer for client luncheons, cream slacks for casual Fridays. And something else changed, too. Each morning, putting on Clara's clothes became less like donning a costume and more like settling into a comfortable identity. The soft fabrics, the elegant lines, the way colleagues smiled and included her in conversations. It all felt increasingly natural. Curtis's old clothes hung untouched in the back of the closet. The studio apartment gradually transformed as well. Scented candles appeared on shelves, throw pillows softened the functional furniture, fresh flowers brightened the kitchen counter. 3 months into the job, Mr. Archer asked Clara to accompany him to an industry gala.
I need someone who knows all the players and can help me navigate the social politics, he explained.
Plus, you're far better at remembering names than I am. The gala required a level of feminine presentation beyond daily office wear. Clara chose a floor-length red dress, modest enough for a professional setting, but elegant enough for an evening event. She spent hours on YouTube learning more sophisticated makeup techniques, perfecting a subtle smoky eye and finding the perfect shade of red lipstick to match the dress. The night of the gala, Clara stood before the mirror, hardly recognizing the reflection. The brown hair was styled in loose waves that framed her face. The makeup enhanced her features without looking overdone, and the red dress draped perfectly over her carefully padded figure. "Who are you?" she whispered to her reflection. The question lingered as she met Mr. Archer in the lobby of the hotel where the gala was being held. He wore a perfectly tailored tuxedo and looked every inch the successful CEO.
"Clara,"
he said, his eyes widening slightly.
"You look extraordinary."
"Thank you, Mr. Archer. Shall we?" She gestured toward the ballroom doors. The gala was a whirlwind of introductions, business discussions thinly veiled as small talk, and strategic networking. Clara excelled at each interaction, whispering key information to Mr. Archer before each conversation, smoothly transitioning him away from less productive discussions, and charming potential clients with her intelligence and wit.
"We make a good team,"
Mr. Archer commented as they paused by the champagne fountain.
"I've closed more deals tonight than at the last 3 of these events combined. Just doing my job, sir." "Richard," he corrected. "When we're out of the office, I think you can call me Richard."
The familiar address created a small crack in Clara's carefully constructed professional facade. For a brief moment, the reality of the situation flooded back. She was living a lie, deceiving this man who trusted her, building a career on a false foundation.
"Is everything all right?"
Richard asked, noticing her sudden discomfort. Clara composed herself quickly. "Yes, of course. Richard, I just remembered an email I forgot to send before we left the office."
"Always thinking about work," he smiled. "That's what makes you exceptional."
The guilt intensified, but alongside it grew another feeling. Pride in who Clara had become and what she had accomplished. The skills were real, the dedication authentic, the results undeniable. Only the packaging was deceptive. As the 6th month of employment approached, Clara faced an unexpected challenge. The Human Resources Department requested updated documentation for all executive staff, including a copy of her driver's license and social security card. The documents, of course, bore Curtis's name and image. There was no legal record of Clara Barnes. The request triggered a crisis. Clara sat in her apartment, surrounded by the trappings of her female identity, contemplating her options. She could forge documents, a criminal offense. She could claim to have lost her identification and buy some time. Or she could tell the truth. The last option terrified her most. Not only would she likely lose her job, but she would also lose Clara, the identity that had become increasingly authentic to her. That night, Clara didn't remove her makeup or her wig before bed. She lay awake, staring at the ceiling, confronting the truth she had been avoiding for months. This wasn't just about a job anymore. Curtis hadn't worn male clothing in over 4 months. The voice modulation that had once required constant concentration now came naturally. The feminine mannerisms had become second nature. Clara wasn't a disguise anymore. She was who Curtis had always been beneath the surface. With that realization came clarity. The next morning, Clara made an appointment with an attorney who specialized in transgender rights. The path forward would be complex: legal name change, gender marker updates on identification, potential medical interventions. But for the first time, the path was clear. The immediate problem of the HR documentation remained, however. After considerable thought, Clara requested a private meeting with Richard.
Of course,
he said, looking concerned at her serious expression.
Is everything all right?
Clara closed the door to his office and sat across from him, hands folded tightly in her lap. Today she wore a simple black skirt and a cream-colored blouse, her brown hair pulled back in a neat ponytail. The outfit felt like armor.
Richard, I need to tell you something important, and it may affect my position here at Archer Enterprises.
His expression grew more serious.
Go on.
When I applied for this position, I wasn't fully honest about my identity. Clara took a deep breath. My legal name is Curtis Barnes. I've been living as Clara for the past 6 months, but my documentation still reflects my birth name and gender. Richard's face remained impassive as she continued. I want to be clear. Every qualification on my resume is legitimate. My work for you has been genuine, and my dedication absolute. But I understand if you feel my deception warrants termination. A heavy silence filled the office. Richard stood and walked to the window, hands clasped behind his back as he looked out at the city skyline.
How long have you identified as Clara?
He finally asked, still facing the window. The question surprised her. It's complicated. I applied as Clara because I believed gender bias was preventing me from getting hired. But over these months, I've realized that Clara isn't a role I'm playing. She's who I am. I'm in the process of making this legally official. Richard turned to face her. So, you haven't been deceiving me about who you are.
You've been discovering it alongside your work here.
Tears threatened at the unexpected compassion in his voice. Yes, that's exactly it. He returned to his desk and sat down, thinking.
The HR documentation is a procedural matter. I'll speak with the department head and explain that you're in a legal transition period. They can work with your attorney to ensure everything is properly handled.
Clara stared at him, hardly believing what she was hearing. You're not firing me? Fire my best executive assistant because she had the courage to be honest with me? That would be remarkably poor business judgment. A small smile appeared on his face. Not to mention poor human judgment. Relief washed over her, followed by profound gratitude. Thank you, Richard. I promise this won't affect my work. I know it won't. In fact, he hesitated briefly. I've been considering creating a new position, Senior Executive Assistant with expanded responsibilities and authority. The position would oversee our administrative staff and report directly to me. I'd like you to consider taking it. A promotion? After what I just told you? Clara, in the past 6 months, you've revolutionized my office, increased my productivity by at least 30%, and helped me close deals that were previously stalled. Your gender identity doesn't change those facts. He leaned forward.
I value results and integrity. You've demonstrated both, the results through your work and the integrity through your honesty today.
The conversation marked a turning point. With Richard's support, Clara navigated the complex process of legally becoming who she already was inside. HR worked with her attorney to handle the documentation issues discreetly. The promotion to Senior Executive Assistant came with a corner office and a substantial salary increase. As autumn arrived, Clara sat at her new desk, reviewing applications for an assistant of her own. Her brown hair had grown out enough to no longer require the wig, styled in a sleek bob that framed her face perfectly. She wore a burgundy dress, her signature color for important meetings, and a subtle pearl necklace. A knock at her door interrupted her review. Richard entered, carrying a small gift bag.
1 year ago today, you interviewed for the position of executive assistant,
he said, placing the bag on her desk.
I thought the occasion deserved recognition.
Clara opened the bag to find a small silver frame. Inside was the business card she had designed during her first week. Clara Barnes, executive assistant to Richard Archer, CEO.
To remind you how far you've come,
Richard said,
and how valuable you are to this company, and to me.
Clara placed the frame on her desk, where the morning light caught the embossed letters of her name, her true name. Thank you for seeing me, she said softly. The real me, even before I fully saw myself.
The best leaders recognize potential, Richard replied with a smile. And you, Clara Barnes, have only begun to realize yours.
As he left her office, Clara looked around at what she had built. A career, an identity, a life aligned with her true self. The journey had begun with deception, born of desperation, but it had transformed into the most honest expression of who she had always been. Curtis had applied for a job. Clara had found herself. The next quarter brought new challenges as Clara settled into her expanded role. Managing a team of administrative staff required different skills than the meticulous organization of one executive's schedule. Clara approached the challenge methodically, getting to know each team member's strengths and working styles. You've completely transformed the administrative department, Richard commented during their weekly meeting. Efficiency is up, complaints are down, and morale has improved dramatically. Clara smiled, straightening the sleeve of her forest green blazer. I just implemented systems that make sense and recognized people for their contributions.
Don't downplay your accomplishments,
Richard said.
Leadership comes naturally to you.
The praise still felt slightly unfamiliar, but increasingly comfortable, like the professional wardrobe that now filled her closet.
Clara had moved from the small studio to a one-bedroom apartment in a better neighborhood, decorating it to reflect her refined aesthetic. Soft neutrals dominated the living space, with pops of burgundy, her signature color, in the throw pillows and wall art. Her personal transformation continued alongside her professional growth. Hormone therapy had begun to soften her features and create subtle changes in her body. Her voice therapy sessions refined her speech patterns. The external changes merely caught up to what she had long felt internally. The company's annual charity gala approached, a significant event that would put Clara in front of the board members and major clients. As senior executive assistant, she would no longer be in the background, but would be expected to represent the executive office with authority and grace. For the occasion, she chose a floor-length gown in deep burgundy, with a modest neckline and elegant draping. Her brown hair, now grown past her shoulders, was styled in loose waves. The woman who looked back from the mirror was confident, professional, and authentically herself. The gala was held at the city's most prestigious hotel. Clara arrived early to oversee final arrangements, checking details that others might overlook. The correct pronunciation of board members' names on the hostess's information card, the specific dietary restrictions of key clients, the perfect placement of Richard's speech at the optimal moment in the evening's program.
You think of everything,
Richard said, appearing beside her as she adjusted a place card at the head table.
The event coordinator is wondering if you'd consider a career change.
Clara laughed. I'm quite happy where I am. Thank you. The evening proceeded flawlessly. Clara moved through the crowd with easy confidence, making introductions, facilitating conversations between potential business partners, and ensuring Richard was always where he needed to be with the information he required. During a quiet moment, She found herself alone at the edge of the ballroom, watching the successful execution of months of planning.
Ms. Barnes?
A voice broke through her thoughts. Clara Barnes? She turned to find a woman in a tailored black suit extending her hand. I'm Eleanor Winters, VP of Operations at Meridian Global. Clara shook her hand, searching her mental database for information about the woman.
Ms. Winters, a pleasure.
I believe you and Mr. Archer are discussing a potential partnership in the Asian markets. Indeed we are, Eleanor said, looking impressed. But that's not why I wanted to speak with you. I've been watching you work this room all evening. Your ability to navigate complex social and business dynamics is remarkable. Thank you, Clara replied, unsure where the conversation was heading. Meridian is expanding our executive team. We're looking for someone with exceptional organizational skills and emotional intelligence to head our new client relations department. Eleanor handed Clara a business card. I'd like to discuss the possibility of bringing you on board. The job offer caught Clara completely off guard. I'm very flattered, Ms. Winters, but I'm happy at Archer Enterprises. I assumed you would say that. Loyalty is clearly one of your values. Eleanor smiled. But the position would come with a substantial salary increase, director-level status, and the opportunity to build a department from the ground up. Think about it. As Eleanor walked away, Clara stared at the business card in her hand. A year ago, she couldn't get hired as an entry-level assistant. Now she was being headhunted for a director position at a Fortune 500 company. The transformation wasn't just in her gender presentation. It was in her confidence, her skills, her recognition of her own worth. Later that evening, as the gala wound down, Richard found her organizing the collection of pledge cards from donors.
You've outdone yourself,
he said.
We've raised nearly double last year's amount.
The cause sells itself, Clara replied modestly. Clean water access is something everyone can support. Richard noticed the business card on her clipboard.
Meridian Global. Don't tell me Eleanor tried to poach you.
Clara looked up, surprised. How did you know?
Because I would, in her position.
He took the clipboard from her hands and set it aside.
Clara, I know you've only been in your senior role for a short time, but I've been thinking about your future with the company. There's an opening coming up for Director of Executive Operations. The position reports directly to me and oversees all administrative functions across departments.
Clara's eyes widened. Are you offering me another promotion?
I'm telling you I'll be considering candidates soon, and I hope you'll apply.
His expression grew serious.
You've earned the right to be considered on your merits, Clara. Not because of our working relationship, but despite it. You've more than proven yourself.
The conversation stayed with Clara as she returned to her apartment that night. She carefully hung the burgundy gown in her closet, next to the growing collection of professional attire that represented not just her gender identity, but her professional accomplishment. The bathroom mirror reflected a woman who had come into her own, not just in appearance, but in essence. The brown hair, the subtle makeup, the feminine features increasingly enhanced by hormone therapy. These were external markers of an internal truth that had always been present. Clara Barnes was not a disguise that Curtis had created for a job. She was the person who had always existed beneath societal expectations and personal uncertainty. The following Monday, Clara sat at her desk reviewing the quarterly reports when her personal phone rang, a number she didn't recognize. Clara Barnes speaking. Ms. Barnes, this is Dr. Reynolds' office calling to confirm your appointment for tomorrow at 2 p.m. Clara checked her personal calendar. Yes, I'll be there. Thank you. The appointment was another step in her transition journey, a consultation about surgical options that would further align her physical self with her identity. Each medical step required careful consideration, but Clara approached these decisions with the same methodical thoughtfulness she brought to her professional life. As she ended the call, Richard appeared in her doorway.
Clara, I need your expertise on something.
She followed him to the conference room, where architectural plans were spread across the table.
We're redesigning the executive floor,
he explained.
As part of the expansion, you'll be getting a larger office. I wanted your input on the layout.
Clara studied the plans, noting the efficient use of space and improved flow between departments. Her new office was positioned strategically between Richard's suite and the main administrative hub, a physical representation of her role as the connector between leadership and operations. "It's perfect," she said. "When does construction begin?" "Next month. Which reminds me, we'll need to move temporarily to the 14th floor. I've had Ike begin preparations for the transition." Clara made mental notes of all the logistics such a move would require: notifications to clients and vendors, rescheduling of meetings, reallocation of staff workspaces. The project would be complex, but manageable with proper planning. "I'll create a transition timeline this afternoon," she promised. Richard nodded, then hesitated before speaking again. "There's something else I wanted to discuss. The company health insurance plan is being reviewed for next year's renewal. I've asked HR to ensure comprehensive coverage for gender-affirming care." The statement caught Clara by surprise. Richard had been supportive of her transition, but this went beyond personal support to institutional change. "Thank you," she said, emotion making her voice slightly husky.
"It's not just for you," Richard clarified. "It's the right thing to do for all our employees. But I wanted you to know that your journey has opened my eyes to gaps in our benefits that need addressing."
This, Clara realized, was the true measure of transformation. Not just changing oneself, but creating ripples that changed the environment around you. The remainder of the year passed in a blur of accomplishments. Clara applied for and received the Director of Executive Operations position. As Clara settled into her new office, she felt a sense of fulfillment that went beyond any title or material gain. The past years had been a journey of self-discovery and growth, where she shed the skin of pretense and embraced her true potential. She thought back to the early days as Curtis, when each day felt like a struggle against her own identity, when every interaction required a careful performance to maintain the facade. It was exhausting, and she often felt a deep longing for authenticity. But the moment she decided to show up as Clara was the turning point, not just in her career, but in her life. Becoming Clara allowed her to tap into a wellspring of confidence and determination that had always been within her. She no longer felt the need to hide her interests, strengths, or personality traits, allowing her to form genuine connections with colleagues and mentors alike. Her success was built on this foundation of authenticity, and it became clear that her initial deception had been a necessary catalyst for change. As Director of Executive Operations, Clara led with an unwavering commitment to transparency and integrity.
Thanks for watching, my girlies! Be sure to check out Patreon for more!